The second reason, or the second common mistake that people make, is underwatering. So going in the complete opposite direction. And typically this comes from the school of thought that you should just put a couple of ice cubes on your orchid every handful of days, and that should be a sufficient enough amount of water for the orchid to thrive. And I am here to tell you that that probably isn't true. Now, in general, remember, we want to try to replicate the natural habitat of an orchid in our home. And so we want to try to mirror how that orchid lives in the wild in our home. And so most orchids live in tropical places. They live in temperate places where the humidity is relatively high, the temperatures are relatively high, and there's lots of moisture around the plant. So sometimes using ice is, number one, probably not enough water for your orchid, especially if you're only gonna do it once or even twice a week, putting a few ice cubes on the top of the potting media. The other thing that the ice could do that could be detrimental to the orchid is that it could shock the roots, especially if there are roots exposed at the surface and you put a piece of ice on it. You could be freezing out some of the viable parts of the orchid, which could then cause detrimental effects to the orchid overall. And then in general, I would recommend that you stay away from using ice cubes to water your orchids and just use lukewarm water from your sink, especially if you live in an area where your water tends to be a little softer and not quite as hard. So that is number two.